All right, so we sort of just spent the first half of the morning getting Django set up. We didn't really build anything, and we aren't really using the templates yet. So the next half of the morning, I just want to spend building out this very simple idea of being able to vote on these questions. We'll get as far as we can. If we don't get all the way, that's fine. I'll try to cover the key concepts, and then you can go over this in your own time. Obviously, ask me, John, questions. Okay, so yeah, we had to do a lot of setup. I just want to go back real quick because we're going to be doing this pattern for the rest of the time. I need a URL. I need to define. I need to put in my directory that this action exists, that this is a thing that my app can do. That's what my router or my URL routes are for. Those then run some function that I defined in my views, right? And that's what we're looking at right now, is that index function. So we hit this URL, which was slash, which is actually slash polls. We got it from that other, we're going from one URL file to the other. Then we run the index method, and then whatever the index function returns is what gets packaged up and sent back to the client, right? And in this case, it's just a basic HTTP response with some text in it, so no template or anything. So we're gonna refactor this so that what we actually send back is an HTML file with a list of all of the questions that exist in our database. And I made one more when you guys were on break, so we have 2 questions now, just because I thought it'd be a little bit easier if we had at least 2. So we have 2 questions in our database, and what we want to do is be able to go to slash polls and see a list of our polls. That makes sense. So we're going to work on most of that just here in the file, because we have everything else set up to do that. We're just not returning the right thing. So let's start by coming down here. We actually don't, well, I'll just keep that for now, but we're going to ditch it. What we're actually going to need is, render, which is already imported, and then that's it. And then I'm going to need from models import question. Cool. So if I want to return a list of the questions, first I need those questions. So this is a pretty common pattern too, just in our controllers, right? So I get to my controller. First thing I might want to, I'm probably going to want to do is gather all my data. I just want to get all the data I need. In this case, it's everything from the questions. So I'm going to say latest questions equals question.objects, and we're going to do order by pub date. And so this will give us all the questions ordered by their pub date with the newest one on top, right? So that's I'm going to save that to a variable. So I'm going to gather all my data. Then I want to pass that data basically to an HTML file, which I have not made yet. But I access that HTML file by doing render, and then it needs the request, and it needs the path to the file that doesn't exist yet, which will be in polls index.html, and then it also needs any data that goes with it. Okay, so I skipped a step, but let me break this down real quick. I have to import my model because I'm going to use it to get data out of my database. This function is going to run when I go to slash polls. It's going to get past the request. The first thing the function is going to do is get the data that I want for this function. In this case, it's every single question, so it's a pretty easy query. Then I want to take this, and in order for me to pass data to a template, I have to do it in a dictionary. Like, I can only pass a dictionary to my template. And even though this is going to return something that's kind of like a dictionary, it's not. It's a query set, right? So I can just put it in a dictionary. So I'm going to say data equals, maybe we could just pass it in. And I'm going to do it this way because this is going to be more versatile for us later. So I'm going to say latest
question is right now it's just an object.
It's a collection.
Oh, okay, it's a query.
Yeah. We're going to put it in a dictionary. Now that I'm doing this, I'm like, oh, I wonder if it would work without it, but let's just do it with it for now. We're going to put it in a dictionary, and we're going to pass. So then we're going to pass. Okay, so we're going to grab all the data we need. We're going to put it in a dictionary. Right now, we just need one. You might have a bunch of different stuff that you end up grabbing, right? Other things from the database, API calls you might make, but you eventually put it all in a dictionary, and you pass it to, you're basically passing it to your HTML file along with the request. And render is a function that's going to do a bunch of magic for us, right? It's going to go find that HTML file for us. It's going to take all the data that we had, smash it all together. It's going to generate the HTML and then build a response for us and send it or pass it off to something that builds a response. Whatever. It starts this chain. We're done with render, right? Render is going to finish it for us. All we have to do now is create this HTML file, okay? And we just tell it the path to where it is. So our templates is what we're going to call our HTML files. We can have them for our whole app or for our whole project, but for now we're just going to have them for our app. So in polls, I'm going to make a new folder called templates. This needs to be called templates. In here, I'm going to make a new folder called polls. And in that folder, I'm going to make a file called index.html. Cool. So let's go back real quick. Views, by default, looks in a folder called templates. So we don't need to tell it that. So we have to say, once you're in templates, render. Once you're in templates, go into the polls folder and grab the index.html file. Cool. Okay, so now that index.html file has nothing in it, so let's put some stuff in it. Fine.
So it's polls, templates, polls, index.
Yep, polls, templates, polls, index, exactly.
And why in the templates folder did you create another folder?
For polls?
Yeah.
It has something to do with, one, the way Django looks for things, the order it looks for things, and it also allows you to namespace stuff. So index is a really common name, and maybe I make another mod, for some reason, I have another model. This is a hard app to think about it with, but say I wanted to just be able to see all of the choices without their questions. You would never want to do that, but say you did. Maybe I would want a choices index page. I would put it in the choices folder, right? So it allows me to have basically namespace things.
Okay.
Separate them. No, that's a good question. That's a good question. Okay. So now that we are in our index.html, we can write some HTML. So let's just do an H1. I'll write this one out, but I promise I'll copy the rest of them because I know watching someone write HTML is like the worst thing ever. Polls. And then what's nice about this is I can run Django in here. Or I'm sorry, run Python in this file, right? So I can say, I'm going to do a quick check. So do you remember this from HTTP server? Have we done this Jinja stuff before, or do we need a quick refresh? So Jinja is it's the library, pretty sure it's the library that Django uses that allows us to run this Python code inside of HTML, and then it will run the code and then spit out the result for us. And I get two things that allow me to do that. One is this bracket % sign, which means run this code, but don't evaluate, don't include the results of it in the actual file, right? So I just, what I'm going to do in here is run an if statement. Not really what I called this in here. No. So if that exists, I want to make a list. And in that list, I want to put all the questions that exist in my database. Now, the reason that it's nice to be able to run Python at this point is this template's not going to know how many questions are in the database. Right now, there's 2. Later, there could be 100, right? And so how do I know how many list items to put in my unordered list, right? Well, by being able to write Python, I can just tell Python to make as many as it needs. So I can just loop through for question in latest question list, which remember, I'm passing in here. So it's no magic, it's just coming in here. And then let me put the end here. This stuff is very tedious to type. And 4. I'm going to copy this. I don't mess it up. Put this. Yeah, I'm about to put that in. All right, I cheated a little bit because this is annoying as hell, right? All right, let's walk through this real quick. H1, we know what that is. If there are questions, like so if I get questions passed, if this question gets template passed, it's going to loop through all of them and create a list item with an href with a link for each question. And the like the value that'll get displayed will be the question.question text, and the link will go to /polls / the question ID. We haven't set that up yet, but we will in a little bit. Okay. Otherwise, else, if there are no questions, it'll just display a paragraph tag that says there are no poll questions available. Cool. Questions about these questions. Okay. So that's it. This should work now. So let's run our server. And let's go to /polls. Sweet. And so now we have all polls, and these are the two that we created. We made when is break earlier, and I added how are you. Cool. So from here, we're just going to continue to build out the functionality. Let's see how far we get. Are there any questions about how we got here? Okay. So let's just build each thing one at a time. So the next thing I want to be able to do, this gives me an entire list of polls. The next thing I want to do is be able to view one question and all its choices. So if I click on when is break, I should be taken to a new page that shows me the when is break question and then the choices that we made for it, right? If I click on it right now, it gives me a 404 not found. And notice what happens up here in the URL, right? If I click on this, it goes to polls /1. 1 is the ID for when is break, right? And then if we click on how are you, it goes to post /2, which is the ID for that one. So this is kind of our next problem. The next thing I want to introduce to you is like, how do I find, this is easy. It's easy if I want everything in the database, because I can just write a route that says like /everything, and then I just query everything. But what if I want a specific thing? So if I'm the client and I want a specific thing, I need to tell the server, I need to give it some identifier so it can find that thing for me. Often we do not use the names of things because names are not always unique, strings are not always unique, it's not a good thing. So usually we use ID, some unique identifier. In this case, we're just gonna use straight up the ID, right? So what will happen is, and this is all on the client side now, right? We're not doing Django. Django sent us this HTML, and the HTML created the link polls /2. Because when it generated this link, it asked the question what its ID was, right? And dynamically did polls /2 here, polls /1 here. So the client is going to send us another GET request back from this HTML file, right? This HTML file now lives on the client side. I'm going to click this, and it's going to send a GET request to /polls /2 to the server. Right now, the server has no idea what to do. So let's tell it what to do. So we're going to do the same pattern. We're going to do URL, we're going to do view, then we're going to do template. All right, so let's first define the URL. So that's here. So path, let me just make sure I'm doing this right so we can. We'll worry about what goes there in a second, and then we'll do views and we'll call it detail. because we want like the actual details for this, and we'll do name equals. So what's going to go here, right? Because this was polls/nothing, but I want this to be able to do polls/1, polls/2, polls/55, right? Like I have a little bit of a problem here. What I want to tell Django is if someone does anything polls/any number, then I want you to run my detail function. So polls/any number is what I need to tell it. And that's actually pretty easy. It's just syntax that we need to remember. We want to say int. I'm not 100% sure why it's formatted this way, but it just is. Question ID. Like that, and then I think we need that. Cool. So what this syntax is telling Django is that if something comes in, now we remember it has to be polls because that's what we're setting up in our project, but anything / an integer, I want you to grab that, whatever that is, that integer, and I want you to save it to a variable called question ID. Right now I'm going to call it question ID. I can call it whatever I want. I'll call it question ID. Then I want you to pass that and the request to detail. Cool? So we've done part one. We've done our route. We've said polls/any number. Cool? Polls/any number, I want you to run detail. So the next thing I can do is write that function. So I'm going to jump into my views. I'm going to do def detail. Did I call it detail or details? What did I call it? Detail. That makes more sense. And I should spell it right. And this is going to take in, and I don't remember what, I think it's request. So it always takes in request first. Because I used this special syntax right here, int, name it question ID, it's also going to pass the question ID for me. And I'm going to need that. Cool. So from here, it's the same steps as before. Look up the data I need in the database, insert it into a template, send that template back, right? So the first thing I do is, let me just make sure that's right. I get my question. And I say that equals, oh, we're going to use, let's use this method here. We're going to use this built-in method Django has called getObject_or404. And what this does, if I do getObject_or404, and what does it need? It just needs to know the name of the object. And we could have just looked it up, right? We could have just done what would it be, like question.objects.get ID and then the ID, which we're getting right here. This is a nice function that Django gives us that will automatically create like a more readable, better 404 response if it tries to find this thing in the database and doesn't find it. Rather than saving I'm not even sure what it'll do if it can't find it. It might do it might error out. It might just save none, but it could really break our program. So this is like a helpful error check. Instead, it'll save a 404 for us, and it'll return a 404 for us, and we'll be fine. So anyway, this is saying on the question model, look for the ID of the question that we want. We're going to make a data object again. We're going to say question Same thing. Return, render, request, polls / this one's going to be detail.html, and we'll pass it the data. Cool. So we did route, we did controller. Now we're going to jump over to the template. Make a new file, call it detail.html. And in here, I'll just copy this. In here, what we're doing is, so we have that question object. Remember, I looked it up in the database, and I passed it to the template. So I have the whole question. In here, we're going to show the question text. Then, remember when we were doing question.choices.all? So to get all the choices, we're going to loop through and list all the choices. That's it. So let's take a look at this. Oh, this exploded for some reason. Why? Oh, I'm missing a comma. Go back here. Cool, so now if I click on this, I get the how are you question and the options. And go back and I can click on when is break and I get the same thing, right? So it will dynamically fill in that HTML depending on where I go. Cool? So far so good?
How come you didn't have to put like that click thing that you have to put for when someone clicks on this? I guess I don't understand how
The link?
Yeah.
We did do that.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah, let's check that out. Right here, this A tag.
Oh.
Yeah, that's that. It means like it will adjust itself depending on the data we pass it, basically, right? I can pass it different data and it will still like figure out how to display itself. That's what I mean by that. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it can change. It can adapt. Sorry, let me figure out where I want to go. It's not results. Okay, so let's do voting. Sorry, I got lost in my own notes. Yeah, all right, let's do the ability to vote now. So when we've, okay, so voting is going to be, that'll be the last thing we do. All right, so now that I have this out of here. All right, I don't know. We'll just do it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Okay, so I want to be able to click on one of these, and what I really want to be able to do is like make a selection here, right? So we need to make a couple of adjustments in order to do that. We are going to change our details. So right now it's just listing, but what I really want is to be able to select one of these, right? So we're going to, I'm going to make a bunch of changes to this HTML. Actually, so I added a lot here. I'll talk you through it, and then you'll get a chance to play with it today too. So we're still doing the detail. We're still doing the question. We're adding some error checking. I'm going to skip that for now. But we have a form right here. So the form is going to render differently. We should be able to just do this. Actually, I should. No, I didn't. I think I need to do that. Did I skip that? Yep, I did. Okay. We were going so well. We were doing so well. I don't know if I'd have to restart it. Let me add app name, although I don't know why that would mess this up. Maybe it is. Detail. Oh my God, what did I do? I replaced the index. I'm such an idiot. I replaced the wrong file. There we go. There we go. Vote is not a valid view function. That's because I didn't make it yet. This works. Oh, reverse.
Request.
I jumped. This is my fault. I tried to jump ahead, and I think I might have skipped an important thing.
Just need a view, right?
Hold on. This is in no reverse. Reverse for vote not found. Oh, right here. Okay. Okay. So. No, 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 no.
It's good. You just need the URL and the view, right?
I think you need to make a function for the reverse get.
Oh, I didn't write a route for it. I think that's the, yeah, I didn't write a route for it. There we go. This is actually going to be basically the same as this one. Sorry, guys. Vote. Vote. Okay. There we go. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about what we did, what we changed. Sorry, I jumped around a little bit. So I changed my detail page that I'm sending back, and I added a form to it. So it shows me the question. It still loops through the choices, but it creates, and so I think with forms so far, we might have just done text inputs, but there's a bunch of different input types that you can use on a form. And here we're just using, what is it called? Radio, which is, I guess, just, I can pick one of these, right? I also have a submit button. And then when this form is submitted, we've done some sneaky stuff here. It's going to go look when it's going to, sorry, let's actually look at it here. Nope. So when this form is submitted, you see where it says action right here? Everybody see that? I know it's kind of small. Action is like, that's my route, my URL, my path. Where do I want to send my form data? It's going to dynamically say polls 2 if I'm on question 2. If I'm on question 1, that exact same thing is going to send it to polls/1, right? The difference here, what's the difference between this polls/1 and the polls/1 that's happening up here? The only difference is the method. So this one is a get to polls/1, which runs my detail and gives back this. We're going to send a form sends a method post. So it'll be a post to polls/1. And let's see. /1. This should work. No, this should actually send it to the vote. Why is it saying polls? I hate these namespace things, man. I never use these. Polls templates, polls index. All right, let's just do it and see what happens. So I'm going to, let's just pick super never and vote and see what happens. Yeah, it brings us back here. I thought that was messed up. That should go to vote. Yeah. Polls/vote. Did the app name? Polls. This is vote. Oh, I am dumb. I am dumb. Yes, my bad. Yeah. Okay. One more time. Polls/1/vote. That's what I wanted. My bad. I totally misspoke when I said polls/1. That was incorrect. We wanted to go to polls/1/vote, which is different than this, and that will pass it to my vote method, which I haven't written yet. Let's just make sure this actually goes there. We should get like a nothing back, basically. Yeah. Nothing question ID. Yeah.
Actually, go to the URL. Sorry. So
Yeah. So polls/nothing will give us our index. Polls/any number will give us our detail. Polls/any number/vote will send us to vote. And vote also takes in the question ID. Question ID. And what do we want to do in vote? We're actually going to do a bunch of stuff in vote. So first we're going to find the question, which we're going to actually use this exact same line of code, right? So we're going to grab the question we want to vote for. And then we're going to do try except. So we're going to say try question. I will explain this in a second. But feel free to ask any questions. Just copy this. I copy this because we're running out of time. All right. So when I submit my form, go back to our form real quick. What did I break now? Thank you. There we go. Got it. Okay. So when I submit my form, it'll make a post request to poll/1/vote. That will hit this URL, which will grab that number for me and save it to the question ID, pass it to votes. Now, when I get to votes, I want to go back to who was asking about the request. Both Hank request, the request thing. Let's do print request. I'm gonna have to do this a couple times. Request.post. Let's pick never and vote. This will blow up. And let's see, where did it print? Request not defined. That's because I wrote render in here like a time. Let's try super never this time. Okay, it got a little ugly because it had aired out because we weren't returning anything. But it starts right here. And there's a bunch of stuff in here. You can see there's this CSRF token. We'll talk about that later, but it's just a security thing. It gets sent with the form. But then also here's something called choice, and there's a 2 on it, right? So choice and 2 come from our form. Our form has an input, and the name of it is choice, and the value of it is the choice ID, right? So right here, this will have like a choice ID of 1, this will have a choice ID of 2, this will have a choice ID of 3, right? So that's how the form is grabbing the data for the choice and passing it in the post request. And we can always find that stuff by whatever we named the input is choice. That's why the key is choice. And then the value will be whatever we pass the value in, right? You'll play with forms a lot more, and this will become second nature. Cool. So then once we do that, I'm just going to wrap it up by showing you the code that's already written. So I can see people drifting. And I know we need to move on. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the question from the URL. Then we're going to, on the question, we're going to call in the choices, and we're going to specifically ask for the choice that was selected. We're going to get that out of from the post request. And then we are going to try to render let's see. Oh no, expect If the choice does not exist, if for some reason we get an error, looks like we are going to just re-render the detail page. Otherwise, selected choice, which we get right here, we're going to increase its vote by 1. We're going to save it after we increase that vote, and then we're just going to redirect them back to the question page.
Where's votes?
Votes is part of the model. Choices have votes, and it's just a number. So let's see if this works. It might not work because I don't think we did the last. No, we didn't do this last thing. Let me just hook that up super quick, and then we'll be done. All right, just so we can see it working. It's a results page, so we can see who voted for what. And so we'll just do the same. We can do this pretty quickly because this isn't as hard.
So it's counting the votes. We just don't have a way to send it back to the speakers.
Exactly. We don't have a way to see what the votes look like, but it is increasing the votes. So I need to. So the pattern always starts at URLs. I'm going to say path. What is this one supposed to be? Just copy these real quick. So I'm going to add a new path. So we need to know which question we want to see results for. So we still need the ID /results. It's going to run a results function. So that brings me to my views. I can define that function. Let's see if that one's already in here so we can just copy it. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Here it is. Find a function that does basically the same thing as before. Grabs the question, renders an HTML file called results.html, so I just need to make that. And that is going to have this HTML in it, which is going to loop through each choice for each question and show us the text and the number of votes. And did it explode? No? All right, so this should, let's see if this works now. Let's vote for soon. It blows up. HTTP response redirect, we need to import that. Thank you. Try one more time.
When you redirect, it says, oh, okay, now do this thing.
Yeah, it will.
Now go to results.
Exactly. I'm gonna pick on this poll. I'm gonna vote. Oh my God, what are we still doing? Reverse is not defined. I probably have to bring that in. This is why I hate this copy and pasting stuff. I try not to do this, but we are so running long. From Django. User, what does it not like? Maybe you don't get it from here. That's probably why. Where do you get reverse from? From the URLs. All right, 9th time's a charm. Sweet. There we go. There we go. There we go. I really appreciate you applauding the problem I created for myself. Solving the problem I created for myself. Okay, so so this is bringing us to the separate page. If I click vote again, it'll bring me back there. I can also go back to polls and select another question. I am fine. Vote. Keep going. Right. So yeah, I know I threw a lot at you, and I know I copy and pasted a lot of code at the end, but you'll be able to go through it and do line by line and see it. The big things is I define a route, I define it like a function. It figures out what to do for that route, and I have a template that I return. Right? If you get these 3 things today, you'll be good. Cool. All right, that's it. Here's what you're going to do today, and then I'll let you go.